Okay, recording is now starting. Welcome everyone again. This is Assistive Technologies Laboratory period in your lecture time. We will finish our bandaging today. Okay, all the topics regarding bandaging will be finished today. So we have here our recording so that your classmates who are not able to attend this morning will have, you can just watch the video again. Okay, we finished with the forearm and wrist. Hello, hello. Hope you can hear me now. We've finished with the wrist bandaging. Um, diba? Tapos na today sa wrist bandaging. Now it's time for the next upper extremity area where we will perform our bandaging, and that's the elbow. Sige, so take out your notes and your writing materials. Let's start with bandaging of the elbow. Indications for use are any elbow or proximal forearm injury. For example, you fell on an outstretched hand ulit. So it is possible that your elbow will also have trauma. And with trauma comes along inflammation, which will also bring along swelling. So if you have swelling of the proximal forearm or elbow area, you can perform bandaging to control edema. Okay, remember indications for bandaging, it's to control edema. So for the elbow, step number 1, isulat sa notes. That is anchor along the distal, anchor along the proximal forearm. Okay, isulat sa notes, anchor along the proximal forearm. So here, nakikita nyo yung elbow ko. I have here my proximal forearm and my distal arm. Correct? This is my arm bone here. Yung distal portion ng humerus ko is the one that's near the elbow joint. And I have here my proximal forearm. So where will you place your anchor pag elbow? It's here in the proximal forearm kasi yung direction mo is going towards proximal area. So you put here the anchor along the proximal forearm. So mag-wrap ako dito along the proximal forearm. Alright? Sige. The direction does not matter if lateral, ito po yung lateral ko ha, lateral to medial, or if medial to lateral. Doesn't matter. It's okay. It's just anchor. Okay? Yung importante, tama ang location ng anchor mo, which is the proximal forearm. Okay, isulat sa note step number 2. From proximal forearm, you cross the elbow joint going to the distal arm. Step number 2, you cross the elbow joint going to the distal arm, pa-diagonal. Bakit pa-diagonal, sir? Kasi you will do the figure of 8. Okay, step number 2, from the proximal forearm, pupunta ka sa distal arm crossing the elbow joint. Okay, I hope that's clear. Sige, so una-una nag-anchor tayo sa proximal forearm, tama? And from the proximal forearm, you cross the elbow joint anteriorly. You cross the elbow joint papunta sa distal arm. Papunta sa distal arm. Okay, step number 3. As soon as you get to the distal arm, what will you do? You wrap around the arm first before going down. Again, you wrap around the arm first before going down. Okay, so meaning, nag-cross ka na, you wrap around first just once. You wrap around first. Ayun, nag-wrap around ako. Pumunta ako sa likod bago pababa sa lalim. Okay, what did I do? Okay, what did I do first? Step number 3, as soon as you cross the elbow joint, papunta sa distal arm, you wrap around first. You wrap around the arm first. And that's step number 4. you go down again to the proximal forearm. And then you just have to repeat the pattern. Okay, so step number 1, anchor, proximal forearm. Step number 2, you cross the elbow joint, going to the distal arm. Step number 3, wrap around the arm. Step number 4, you go down to the proximal forearm again. On step number 5, you repeat the pattern kasi figure of 8 yan. Step number 5, repeat the pattern, that's figure of 8. And step number 6, you anchor, you provide security using tapes and avoid using the metal clip. Okay, remember, huwag tayong gagamit ng metal clip. You secure your tape when you finish your intervention using tapes and not the metal clips. I hope that is clear for the elbow. Any question? Any clarification when it comes to the elbow bandaging? Okay. Guys, it doesn't matter if pasaka ka from medial to lateral or from lateral to medial, doesn't matter. Importante, tama ang pag-rotation sa imo nga bandage. Meaning, if you start from here, if you start from medial going to lateral, ma-wrap around ka danay before ka mag-start medial to lateral all over again. Okay, you need to learn how to do the figure of 8 na pattern. And questions? You can comment there your questions for clarification. Okay, if not, let's proceed to our next joint. We have the knee. Proceed tayo sa tuhod, ha? Okay, I hope you're still there. All right. I have here ang akong tuhod. Okay. Sa tuhod ta, let's begin. Step number 1, anchor. Where will you anchor? Okay, you anchor the proximal tibia or proximal leg. Again, magtuhod ka, bandaging tayo. Step number 1, you anchor your bandage, your elastic bandage around the proximal leg or proximal tibia. Are you following? Okay, good. From the proximal leg, you wrap around no, nag-anchor ka. You cross the knee joint. Nag-cross ako sa knee joint. Then you wrap around distal thigh twice. Again ha. Sige, sige. Step by step, step by step. Step number 1, you anchor around the proximal leg or proximal tibia. Step number 2, you cross the knee joint going towards the distal thigh. Ito po yung distal thigh ko, dito, or the distal femur, or above the knee joint. Correct? Okay. Step number 1. Step number 2. Okay. Step number 3, you wrap around the thigh. Pag wrap mo around, twice po. Bakit twice, sir? Because this is a large area, you need to secure your tape before going down to the proximal leg or the distal area of the joint. Okay, again, this is a large area. That's why nag-wrap around ako. No, when I reach the thigh, nag-wrap around ako sa thigh twice. So, to secure my bandage. Yan, twice siya. Pag abot ko di sa distal thigh, kadua ko maglibot. Okay? That's step number 3. Wrap around the thigh twice. Okay, kadua please. Step number 3, I go down again. You go down to the proximal leg or distal the knee joint. You wrap around the back of the knee, going up to the distal thigh. Again, step number 4. Step number 4, you go down. Step number 4, from the distal thigh, you go down to the proximal leg. You go around the back of the knee and go up again to the distal thigh. Step number 5 is to repeat the pattern. And step number 6, of course, is to secure your bandage using tape and avoid using metal. Step number 6 is to secure the bandage using tape and avoid using metal clip. Have you noticed that knee joint somehow it is similar to the elbow joint? The difference is nag-wrap around ako sa thigh twice before going down. That is because this is a large area and I want to secure my bandage. Baka kasi if once lang, pag turn mo, maloosen up ang bandage. So that's why you wrap around the proximal thigh or the distal thigh or the distal femur twice before going down to the proximal leg. Okay, and that is the pattern when it comes to the knee joint. Remember to watch your video, guys, sa YouTube so that kamo mismo, you will see ang crisscross. Kita nyo na after the video sa YouTube, ang crisscross, please do watch them during asynchronous time, no? Ang crisscross, amo na siya ang nag-indicate that your figure of 8 was done correctly. If you do not see the crisscross, then you have to repeat your execution. Yes, question. Okay. Pa-repeat liwat sa step 4. Sige. Okay, so ang taliwat. Step 1, you anchor around the proximal leg. Tama? Step 2, you go up to the distal thigh. Step 3, you wrap around the distal thigh twice. Step 4, sir, from the distal thigh, from the distal femur, you go down to the proximal leg. From the distal femur to the proximal leg. Happy? You go around the back of the knee or back of the proximal tibia or back of the proximal leg, same. And you go up again the distal thigh. Okay? Step number 4, from the distal thigh to the proximal leg, you wrap around the back of the leg, you go up to the distal thigh again. Siya na ang nagpa-figure of 8 din. So from distal thigh or distal femur to the proximal leg, nag-cross diagonally, of course. You wrap around the back of the thigh, back of the knee, or back of the leg, or back of the tibia, same. Then you go up again to the distal thigh. Step number 5 is to repeat the pattern. And step number 6 is to secure the bandage using tape and avoid using metal clips. No need. You can cover the patella. Okay? Miss T here has a question. Sa knee, sir, no need na daw may space sa patella. It's okay to cover the patella. Right? It's okay to cover the patella. No need nga kilalan go show gid ang patella. It's okay to cover the patella. Okay, remember, this is compression therapy. Diba? Gina-compress ang knee joint because we want to control the swelling. So sometimes the swelling can also appear in the patellofemoral joint. So it's really okay to cover the patella. Right? Okay, good. Okay, let's proceed to the next joint. We have the ankle. Are you ready now? Sige, magfo-fold lang ako ng bandage before we go to the ankle. By the way, your return demo for bandaging is your return demo here is how to bandage a residual limb. No? Later, I will show you the technique. Dito muna tayo sa joints natin. Because in your practical exam, either of these techniques will be performed. So sa practicals, base ang mapilian mo, it's your taping, bandaging, or kinesiotaping. It's either of those techniques. So even though ang ginaparet them sa inyo ang high-yield clinical practice, you still have to learn all the techniques because one of them might be your case for our practical exam. All right? So for your practical, please do acquire your bandage. If possible, gid. If not, you have your masking tape. Okay, sige. I'm ready now. Let's present ankle, the ankle technique for bandaging. Okay. Say hello to my ankle. Ankle, meet Goodman, cluster A. Goodman, cluster A, meet my ankle. Hello po. Hello, welcome. Okay, sige. Let's start with the ankle. Step number 1, isulat sa notes para maging beautiful naman siya. Sana all notes. Anchor around the high ankle region. Where will you put your anchor? In the high ankle region. Okay, high ankle or distal leg. Dito po ako mag-anchor muna. That's step number 1, anchor in the high ankle or distal leg region. Okay? There we go. Ganyan siya ha. Your direction should be going to the lateral. Going to lateral. That's how you wrap around your anchors. Sa ankle, yung direction is palateral. Okay? Doesn't matter where you put it first, whether dito siya sa may big toe magsisimula, big toe, here's my big toe, or dito siya sa other side magsisimula, basta the direction is going palateral. Palateral siya. Okay, again, step number 1, anchor around the high ankle region or distal tibia or distal leg rather. And the direction should be going lateral. So, ito yung big toe ko, meaning this is medial side. Ang anchor ko should be going towards lateral side. Okay, so hindi lang na siya pag gusto guys sa ankle ha. Kailangan pag going lateral. So, when I pull, it's going towards the fibular side. This is my tibia side. Kailangan ang lateral. Sa tuhod or sa elbow, it's okay whether you start medially or laterally or whatever your direction is. Pero sa ankle, you need to strictly follow that your direction is going lateral. It's really medial to lateral in the ankle because again, you look at the MOI of ankle sprain injuries. Kung ankle sprain, it's plantar flexion inversion. So meaning, ang imo nga bandaging pa-opposite that direction. Just like your taping. Okay, let's proceed to step number 2. Step number 2, move from medial malleolus. Copy sa notes please. Medial malleolus papuntang cuboid. Medial malleolus, ito ha, medial malleolus papuntang cuboid. Your cuboid is found in the lateral part of your feet. Ito yung small toe ko. This is my small toe, my little toe. So from medial malleolus papuntang sa cuboid. It's in the lateral portion of your foot. Ganyan siya. Okay, let me use my tape this time. Use my tape here. Okay. I anchor around my tibia, my distal tibia, or my distal leg, going laterally yung direction. Step number 2, from medial malleolus papunta akong cuboid. Papuntang cuboid. This is just figure of 8, guys ha. This is just figure of 8. Papuntang cuboid. Ayun okay. Papuntang cuboid. So from medial malleolus papuntang cuboid. Step number 3, you pass under the plantar aspect to the navicular. Step number 3, pass under the plantar aspect to the navicular. Pass under the plantar aspect to the navicular. So from cuboid, papuntang navicular. from cuboid here, papuntang navicular. Step number 3, once again, for the last time, you pass under the plantar aspect to the navicular. Step number 4, okay, pupunta ka sa dorsum of the foot. Okay, dorsum of the foot, going to the lateral malleolus. Ano siya? From the navicular dito, okay, here's my big toe, meaning medially na po ako. Medial, from the navicular, you pass in the dorsal aspect, going to the lateral malleolus. That's step number 4, guys. Over the dorsal aspect to the lateral malleolus. Step number 4, over the dorsal aspect to the lateral malleolus. Again, over the dorsal aspect to the lateral malleolus. What is step number 5? Okay, step number 5, move on tayo. Step number 5, around the back of the ankle. So, ito na yung tape. Back of the ankle to the medial malleolus once again. Back to the medial malleolus. Can you guess what is step number 6? You just have to repeat the pattern all over again. Step number 6. You just have to go around the ankle again and go up. Step number 6, ulit-ulitin mo lang po the pattern until the whole bandage is used up. Okay. Then step number 7, you secure your tape again in the proximal leg, proximal tibia, proximal part of the ankle joint or in the distal tibia using tape and avoid using the metal clips. Right? That's the, okay, may difficulty na ako mag-plantar flexion. Difficulty in plantar flexion indicates that you have done the correct bandaging for the ankle. Okay, you should see the crisscross pattern once again. Okay, let's review your ankle. Number 1, anchor around the high ankle region. You anchor in the distal tibia or distal leg. Step number 2, i-check mo yung notes mo. Check mo yung notes mo. Number 2, medial malleolus to cuboid. Medial malleolus to cuboid. Step number 3, plantar aspect to navicular. Step number 4, over the dorsal aspect to the lateral malleolus. Step number 5, around the medial malleolus again. Back of the ankle going to the medial malleolus. Step number 6, repeat the pattern, repeat the figure of 8. And step number 7, secure your bandage at the high ankle region or distal tibia once again using metal clips. Okay, tingnan natin yung comments if there are questions. Any questions, guys? Comments here? Wala? Okay, sige. I'm going to proceed now. Okay, I'm going to proceed now. Let's have the wrapping or the bandaging of your residual limb. Okay? The last na to, guys. Promise. This is now the last technique. This is bandaging of your residual limb. Okay, residual limb. Pag sa lower X, we have 2 types of residual limb. It's transfemoral or transtibial, correct? Ang transfemoral, I believe that is above knee amputation. Pag transtibial, that is below knee amputation. And I think I've given you already what is the ideal shape of the residual limb pagdating sa amputation. If it is transfemoral, I think sabi ko conical, tama? And if it is transtibial, I told you it's cylindrical. Correct? Can you remember? Okay. If you look at the chat, mag-chat ako. Okay. Sabi ko sa chat, ako busy. Ako busy. Okay. Yung letter A sa ako busy is above me. Yung letter B, below me. Ano kaya yung ko? Yung ko dyan is conical at yung C is cylindrical. Okay. If tatanungin ko sa mga posts nyo in Facebook, magko-comment ako, what is the ideal residual limb shape? Okay? What is the shape of the residual limb para perfect yung prosthetic fitting? You will answer me with, Prof, ako busy. Ay, Char, busy siya. Bakit kaya ako busy? Above me, conical. Below me, cylindrical. Correct? Pag naintindihan mo yung ako busy, can you give a heart reaction to the comment there? Sige, pag naintindihan mo yung ako busy, i-heart mo yung comment ko. Char. Ayun, ayun. Duwa na. Uy, tatlo na. Very good. Damo na sila naka-HND. Ay, very good. Perfect, perfect. Okay, sige. How do we make the shape conical or cylindrical? We need to perform the figure of 8 to the residual limb. Okay. The other name of the distal portion of the residual limb is the stump. Magko-comment ako, S-T-U-M-P, stump. Okay. Again, the stump, hindi stump na I will stomp my feet, ha? Okay. Yung stump na S-T-U-M-P, that is the distal or terminal portion of your residual limb. Again, yung stump is the distal or the terminal portion of your residual limb. Are we clear on that? Yes, we are clear on that. Okay. So how do we shape our stump into the ideal shapes of our residual limb for prosthetic fitting? We have our figure of 8 to perform that one. Okay, again, your figure of 8, whether transfemoral or transtibial, will help us shape our stump for perfect prosthetic fitting. Okay, are you ready now? Yung video, okay, your video is already found in YouTube. I already sent you the link in your Module 1 channel doon sa Teams natin. You just have to open that one to see the method. In our discussion today, ibibigay ko yung instructions and it is up to you in your rep them to interpret on how to perform. Okay? Bibigyan ko kayo ng konting challenge. I will give you the instructions. You will watch the video. You will perform and execute the technique at yun na po yung rep them. Okay? So if I were you, you listen carefully to the method discussion so that it will be clear when you perform your return them. Okay? Don't worry guys, my video po sa YouTube. You just have to access that one para clear tayo sa performance. Okay? Again, this is rep them. So if you make a mistake, you can just repeat again your video. Okay? Siyempre, isama lang ka video dan isa sa kanyang final performance. Okay? But it's okay guys. You can repeat your video, di ba? While you are recording this. This is your performance is based on how you record yourself. So if you make a mistake while recording, it's okay. Hindi man live. Hindi man live ang inyo. Sige. Tama na ang advertisement. Sige, let's go. Number 1 method. Number 1 step in residual limb wrapping or bandaging. Number 1, you anchor on the femur or the pelvis. Number 1, you anchor on the femur or the pelvis. Okay. What is wrapping or anchoring on the femur or the pelvis? Pag ang patient transtibial, you anchor around the femur or the thigh. If the patient is transfemoral, you wrap around the pelvis. Okay, again. Step number 1, isulat sa notes. If your patient is transfemoral, you wrap around or you anchor around the distal thigh. If your patient naman is transfemoral or above the knee, where will you wrap your anchor around the pelvis? So you go up to the hip joint around the pelvis and then you go down to the hip again. Let's proceed. Copy na step number 2. Step number 2, guys. You copy in your notes. Ready? You move from the lateral proximal area, to the medial distal area. Black, pink in your area. Joke lang. Okay, from the lateral area, from the lateral proximal area, you cross anteriorly. You cross going down to the medial distal area. Okay, what do I mean? Pag lateral proximal, that is around your anchor. Pag medial distal, when I say distal, yun sa my stump or the distal portion of your residual limb. Copy sa notes. Copy sa notes. Lagay sa notes. Okay. Again, from the lateral, step number 2 pa lang ha. Step number 2. You check your notes. From the lateral proximal area going to the medial distal area of the residual limb or stump. Step number 3. You move from the back of the stump. Okay. You move from the back of the stump to the lateral thigh area. You move from the back of the stump to the lateral thigh area. Diba nag-anchor ka na? When you did the anchor from the lateral proximal area, pupunta ka sa medial distal stump. Pumunta ka muna sa back of the stump before going to the lateral thigh area again. Okay, lateral thigh area. Okay, meaning from the back of the stump, you go up to the area just below the ankle. Just below the ankle. So that's the notes. Step number 3, check your notes please for the last time. You move from the back of the stump to the lateral thigh area just below the ankle. Meaning from the back, from the posterior portion of the stump, you go up to the lateral thigh area proximally kung saan ka gumawa ng anchor. Ay, nakopy sa notes? Alright. Step number 4, you wrap around the front of the stump. Sorry. You wrap around from the front of the proximal area to the back again. You wrap around from the front to the back. So that's a note, from the front to the back. Okay, from the front to the back. Okay, na number 5. Step number 5. You move from the medial proximal. You listen carefully. You move from the medial proximal to the distal lateral stump. You move from the medial proximal, meaning nasa area ka ng anchor, medial proximal area, going or towards the distal lateral stump. Distal lateral stump. Okay, i-compare mo yung words natin dito, yung direction natin. In this step number 5, i-compare mo sa step number 2. Sige, you look at your notes and compare step number 5 to step number 2. Nakita ang difference? Sa step number 2, if you look at it guys, no? Sa step number 2, sabi ko, lateral proximal going to medial distal. This time, sa step number 5, medial proximal papuntang distal lateral. So yung isang step, lateral to medial, yung isang step, medial to lateral. That crossing of your bandaging will cause the stump to go to its ideal shape. Okay? Yung step number 2 at step number 5, when they are made together, or if they are married together, na-perform mo correctly yung step number 2 at yung step number 5, this will proceed or this will lead to the shaping of the residual limb or the stump in a ideal prosthetic hip. Okay, so again, step number 5, you look at your notes please. Step number 5, medial proximal papuntang distal lateral stump. Okay, step number 6. Step number 6 from the front of the stump, from the front of the stump, go to the medial thigh area just below the ankle. From the front of the stump, go to the medial thigh area just below the ankle. Okay. For the last time, please listen carefully. Isulat sa notes. From the front of the stump, go to the medial thigh area. From the front of the stump, you go to the medial thigh area just below the ankle. Step number 7, you wrap around from the front of the thigh. You wrap around from the front of the thigh to the back. You wrap around from the front of the thigh to the back. Kasi pag step number 8, you just have to repeat the whole pattern. You repeat the whole pattern. Okay, I gave you the notes already. Okay, you use your critical thinking to follow the steps so that you will know how to perform the bandaging or the figure of 8 for our residual limb. If you find it difficult, you have the YouTube video available in our Module 1 channel in our Microsoft Teams. Okay? Sige, I gave you the technique sa ankle, sa knee, sa wrist, and sa elbow. For the residual limb, okay, I gave you the steps already. I already gave you the link for the video. It's up to you this time. Okay, self-learning ka for this specific technique. And if you have questions, you can always ask it sa ating chat here in Microsoft. Alright? That will be part of your return demonstration. Meaning you have to video yourself while performing or executing the technique. Okay? Yes, comment. Okay. Ay, okay, copy. Step number 6 again. Step number 6. Step number 6, move from the front of the stump. Step number 6, move from the front of the stump to the medial thigh area just below the ankle. Step number 6, move from the front of the stump to the medial thigh area. Okay, kasi nasa distal lateral pa. So step number 5, you ended at the distal lateral portion. So from the distal lateral portion, tap sa front ng stump and then you go up to the medial thigh end, just below the ankle. Meaning from the distal portion ng stump, pupunta ka sa medial thigh. That's not step number 6. Okay, Sir Lloyd, here. Again, step number 6. Move from the stump, from the front of the stump, going where? To the medial thigh area. Very good. Just below. Okay, any questions, guys? Okay, sige. If there are no more questions, that ends our topic on bandaging. We are done with lesson 1 in module 1. Then, pa tayong lesson 2 and lesson 3. Alright, let me stop now the recording.